Hi guys, good afternoon. This is Business Lunch. I'm Sonia and with me today is Mangalam Malu. Mangalam, hi. Afternoon. It's really a narrow market, right? I mean, just a handful of stocks keeping the market higher, whether it's HUL or Kotak Mahindra Bank. But stripped of that, even names like SBI, L&T, but stripped of that, almost anything and everything is in the red, including a lot of these vulnerable names, the ADAG group stocks, Z group stocks. So looks like it's still troubled times, but just the headline index is floating.
The headline index is floating. The face is looking beautiful. And beneath the surface is where the problem is. And it's the consumption stocks, like you said, be it HUL, even Titan, for instance. Titan's now up 4%. And this adding to the gains that we saw yesterday. So that makes the stock gain almost about 7-8% in just the last two trading sessions. And not just that, it's been a big mover in the past. So after gaining 40% in the last 12 months or 1 year, the stock has gained about 8% in just the last two trading sessions. The management joined us yesterday after a good set of numbers, said the jewelry industry wasn't growing, but in that, Titan went ahead and gained market share and grew. So the stock not particularly cheap, trading at 50 times, but if you can show that sort of growth when the industry is not growing, maybe the valuations are justified.
Well, yes, in fact, let's continue talking about some more stocks. By the way, there's important information on Lupin on your screen, and we're going to get Ekta to tell us more about an inspection at one of their biggest plants, which was carried out from January 14th to January 25th. We have, of course, she has reached out to Lupin and she's awaiting for a comment from them. But I think we can go straight to her to find out more on that. Ekta, Lupin is now down 2.5%. An inspection that's currently taking place?
Yes, absolutely. I think that particular alert is for an inspection of another facility which has a warning letter. So I'll just give you a background. In November 2017, Lupin had received a warning letter for two of its plants, which is basically the Goa unit. It's the most important unit when it comes to the US operations for Lupin, and the Pithampur 2 unit. So together they account for at least around 50% of their US filings. So these two units are extremely critical for Lupin. After that, they had completed the remediation based on what the warning letter observations were, and the Lupin management was waiting for a re-inspection to take place. So now my sources have told me that the Goa plant has been under US FDA inspection, or the US FDA inspection had begun last week, which is on the 28th of Jan. So it is continuing as per now. Importantly, Pithampur Unit 2, which is the other one under warning letter, had already got inspected in Jan, which is between those dates which were mentioned earlier. And that had received 6 observations. We don't know the nature of those observations, but Goa, remember, is an extremely important unit for Lupin. Maybe there will be trepidation on what it might contain, but the fact that it's getting inspected is also a positive, considering that there'll be some amount of movement on a plant which has a warning letter overhang.
Absolutely, Ekta. We will definitely keep an eye out on that, but the stock currently is sitting with a curve of about 2-2.5%. Uncertainty over what exactly could take place in that inspection. So we'll await clarity on that. But since you're with us, Dr. Reddy's, that one's doing fairly well in today's trading session. The Indivior boost coming in?
Yes, absolutely, for Suboxone. So basically, they will not get a re-hearing on Suboxone. Now, remember that Suboxone is an anti-drug addiction drug in the US, and which Dr. Reddy's had launched at risk last year. Then they had to withdraw it. It's around $750 million. Now, how big a market it is for Dr. Reddy's depends on who else is launching the particular drug in the US. So, for example, there could be around 3 to 4 other generic companies, including the likes of Alvogen, Sandoz, as well as Mylan, which could be launching the drug. So that means that it could dwindle down to an opportunity. The range of estimates on what they could earn is anywhere between $30 million to even $70 million. That depends entirely on competition, but nonetheless positive news for Dr. Reddy's.
Okay, well, it seems like your day is not done just yet. It's the day of all pharma exclusives. What's the news on Aurobindo Pharma this afternoon?
Well, it's another inspection which is taking place there. I understand from my sources that the Unit 11 of Aurobindo is getting inspected. It is an API unit. The inspection began yesterday. I couldn't get a confirmation in terms of what kind of inspection it is, but I am being told from my sources that it could probably have been a surprise inspection which is taking place at this point in time. So there was little, there was little knowledge by the company, or little amount of time that they knew that this inspection is going to take place. Obviously, there is uncertainty at this point with regards to what the outcome could be, and it could probably even be linked to the fact that valsartan was a big issue for a lot of API manufacturers and the US FDA, and hence they are probably becoming much more vigilant when it comes to this.
All right, so after that afternoon dose of pharmaceutical, thanks a lot for that, Ekta. We'll talk about another stock which was under pressure, now off it. We have Bharti Airtel under pressure after ratings agency Moody's downgrades the company's unsecured senior notes rating to junk. Reema's here with all the details, the stock of the lows of the morning.
Yes, Moody's has downgraded Bharti's rating from Baa3 to Ba1, which is actually a non-investment grade rating or a speculative grade or a junk rating. They've also downgraded the senior unsecured notes to a junk rating. The outlook is negative. Remember, Moody's had put Bharti on a review for a possible downgrade on the 8th of November, and 2.5 months later, that has come through. The reasons for the downgrade, more of the same: uncertainty whether the profitability, the cash flow and the debt levels can improve sustainably and materially from here on given the competition. They acknowledge that the company is taking steps to improve the debt profile, but the cash flow generation will remain weak, which will keep the leverage quite elevated. But bear in mind, and that could be the reason why the stock is also recovered. One, the company is indeed taking a lot of steps to bring down their debt. There is the $200 million investment from Qatar Investment Authority, which is not reflecting in the debt levels. That is already announced, and going ahead there is that Africa IPO, as well as possible of an equity raising, and the other rating agencies like S&P and CRISIL still have an investment grade rating on Bharti. But this is a setback and bad news for Bharti Airtel nonetheless.
Okay, bad news for Bharti Airtel. The stock though has recovered from the low point of trade, but let's listen into Sunil Mittal, the chairman of Bharti Enterprises, who spoke on issues concerning deleverage and Moody's red flagging the same. Listen.
First of all, Africa has already raised pre-IPO money, $1.25 billion, which has gone to deleverage. The $5 billion debt, we are in Africa down to $3.7 billion, out of which $700 million is FLO for towers, which is not a real debt to be repaid, but just to be adjusted over time. So $3 billion debt there. At some point in time, 2019, we will have our IPO.
It was expected in the first half. Is it now been pushed to the second half? Is that the expectation?
Can't say. I think some pre-roadshows are in the offing in the coming weeks. I would say we should stay to our schedule.
Which is the second half?
No.
Or the first half?
It would be in the middle.
In the middle. Okay.
We always said June, July. We never had said, I don't know, there were some reports that we'll do it early in the year. There's an election in Nigeria happening in February. There are one or two other political development, and then we have to have March closing. So it is always June, July. It was never February, March.
Okay, so June, July is the expectation. What's the expectation on valuation given the fact that you did a pre-IPO around at 1.25 billion?
Yeah, so take that as a, I would say, lead into the valuation which some private investors have given. Now, depending on when you arrive at that point in time, what are the performance metrics in Africa, how are the markets, it will all be decided at that point in time.
All right, so that was on Bharti Airtel. With that, we slip into a short break, come back, and we talk about the fact that we learned from sources that the Finance Ministry and SEBI are set to be in talks to ensure more accountability of rating agencies. Stay tuned. We'll be back with that on the other side.